Good morning. I'm Gretchen Batra, an AARP volunteer with the Mountain Region of North Carolina, and we're so glad everybody's here today. I'm here with Celeste Collins, the Executive Director of OnTrack, Financial Education and Counseling. Hi, Celeste.
Good morning, Gretchen. It's nice to be back with you and all the AARP and folks that are tuned in for our live stream chat today.
Yeah. Well, before we get started, I wanted to point out a couple of things I put in the comment box. There's two resources that we want you to know about. One is the AARP Money Map. It's a whole lot of different resources related to money that you will find useful. And then Celeste has a particular well, I guess I call it a workbook, and I'll have her explain that in a minute. But these are resources that'll be really helpful to you to follow up with later. So, Celeste, you're the Executive Director of OnTrack, and you were with us for two other programs. One was on goal setting for the year, and the other one, which we did about a month ago, was on debt and strategies to reduce debt. So we hope people that saw that found it useful. But could you explain, before we get too far along, what OnTrack is, what you do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Gretchen, and thanks so much. Yeah, 3 of 3. So today is our final opportunity to talk for this series. OnTrack Financial Education and Counseling was formerly known as Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Western North Carolina, and we serve the western 18 counties in North Carolina. We're a private nonprofit agency that gets United Way funding. We help people come up with budgets. We help people figure out how tools to track their spending. We help people get out of debt, improve their credit, avoid foreclosure, learn how to buy homes, and save money.
Exactly. So many things. And you also have a tax assistance site as well. So
yes, thank you for reminding me to mention that. Yes, we do free tax preparation for folks in Western North Carolina. And yeah, Gretchen is one of our board members and heard a great story about one of our tax clients at our board meeting this week. So yes, free tax preparation, IRS trained volunteers for folks living in Western North Carolina. Whoops, did we freeze?
And there we are. We cover 22 counties and you do 18. So we're pretty much together. So could you explain what the confidential record workbook is and why people might find that useful?
Absolutely. It's almost like a table of contents for everything people might need to know about your financial life if you were to become incapacitated or pass away from this life to the next, or whatever your beliefs are about that. So if you are sick or dead, this is a place where your family can go, your friends can go to find out everything that they need to know about your professional team, where your will is, where your accounts are, any kind of insurance, that type of thing. So it's a 4-page workbook, and it has places to list all those important pieces of information for those who you care about and who care about you.
It's an invaluable resource. I did one of those about 20 years ago, and it helped me pull all my financial stuff together in one place. It had, like, I didn't have children, but if I did, I'd have their social security numbers. And it's just an incredible way to get organized. So I encourage people to send to OnTrack to get that, because I think it'll be very helpful. Well, today our topic is housing. And our homes can be one of the biggest expenses of our life. And so what are some trends in housing currently? Lots going on in housing. I know that.
Lots going on in housing. So a recent study showed that 90% of adults over 50 live in their own homes. 78% of them live in their own house, and then another 10% live in the house of family member or somebody else, a private residence. Interestingly enough, individuals over 80 years old are the folks that are more likely to live in retirement communities or assisted living facilities. Now, some of the studies show that by 2030, so less than 10 years from now, older adults will be about 20% of the population. By 2034, older adults are going, the demographic size of the older adult population is going to be bigger than the children size of the population in the United States. And so people over 85 years old are the people most in need of extra personal care. And so that population is going to quadruple between now and 2040. So there's a lot going on in terms of the population trends. And when we think about housing, recent survey said that 87% of people want to stay in their current home and their community as they age. So there's some challenges out there, obviously affordability, accessibility, access to health services, and those kinds of things are some communities are really getting turned on by this challenge, this opportunity as they address the futures of their communities. And so looking at the supply of age-friendly housing, looking at rental assistance, home repair to keep people's house livable, and also modifications that are needed to promote accessibility and things like that.
Yeah.
In Buncombe County, there's a great, wonderful group of advocates that are looking at the needs of older adults, and the aging in place plan, or the aging plan for Buncombe County is connected with the AARP Livable Communities initiative here in Buncombe County to try to be really intentional about the way that the community promotes older adults aging and the housing needs.
Yes, but the reality is that most people that live in houses today, very few houses have all the components you need to have a truly livable house, like easy access to get into the house without steps, the right height of counters, how to get in the bathroom. Oftentimes it's very difficult. Bathrooms are small if you have a wheelchair or a walker to try to navigate. And, the reality is it doesn't really matter what age. We're talking about accessible houses are good for people of all ages. So if you got a baby and a stroller and you're trying to get in the house, that's good. Or you go skiing and you break your leg, and all of a sudden you've got needs for what we call universal design. So you just sort of said aging in place is a buzzword this year, but it's been around aging in place for a long time, and I think you alluded to the whole thing about livable communities, which the World Health Organization kind of is the umbrella for that, and then AARP joined that effort, and so we're working on that around the country. And I think you gave a lot of the components that might fall into that.
Yes, and there's actually, as I was preparing for our show today, Gretchen, I found a wonderful checklist that AARP has on its website. The checklist about the things that accessible home would include, and it's everything from what needs to be in the kitchen to the bathroom to the entryways and things like that. So I encourage folks to check that out as they plan for getting older. But the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has a definition of aging in place, and they say it's the ability to live in one's own home and community safely, independently, and comfortably, regardless of age, income, or ability level. So that's pretty comprehensive, and it really captures what we're talking about when we say aging in place.
It does. And one of our challenges in our geographic area that you and I both, or we all represent, is transportation, because if you get in the more rural areas, and we're also in the mountains, so transportation can be a big issue. So there's a lot of components. Another resource that AARP has, it's really valuable if AARP.org/homefit. And there you'll find a whole booklet about how to make your house adaptable, and a lot of the things you can do yourself. Um, so do take advantage of looking at that too. So what are some housing options for people as they age? We talked about living in your own home, but what else can you do?
Oh, sure. So yes, living in your own home, living with relatives. So that could be children, sisters, cousins, just whatever. Finding a relative that you can cohabitate with as you get older. Moving into a retirement community or residential facility. There's some really wonderful places that provide graduated care, so you can go in as an independent living resident, and if something happens along the way, then you have the opportunity to get assisted living and then into nursing care. So that's an option for some folks as they age. And then the consideration when you think about living in your own home, is it a home that you own, a home that you're buying, or is a rental property a more effective solution for you? Because when you rent, the landlord takes care of the maintenance kinds of things, and so that's an option as well. I think you do have some information about Beacon Hill as a model community.
Right. In Boston, there's a called, it started in Beacon Hill, so it's called the Beacon Hill model. And that's where a lot of people living there came together with the thought of being able to hire identified people to come in and help with various things, and home repairs, snow shoveling, all of the various things, raking leaves, name it. But it's a coordinated effort where all of the people in a geographic area come together and make a plan on how to bring services into the community. And there's other models where people, again, come together, make a plan, and then they help each other. So there's a lot of ways. And co-housing, well, we've seen a lot of examples with the pandemic and people needing to readjust their housing needs. So there's a lot of examples out there. So one doesn't have to live, one person in a great big house all by themselves. Rent, if you live in a college town, maybe you could rent to a graduate student, and then they might help with some of the tasks. I think it's being creative around this housing thing.
Absolutely. Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting too, you mentioned the pandemic. There's a lot of isolation and loneliness issues that
Mhm.
people have dealt with for the past 2 years, and um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so thinking of having some co-housing or a roommate, that you charge rent to or that you pay rent to live with, that
Mhm.
is definitely a way to address not just the housing needs, but also the companionship needs.
Right, right. And in some areas of the country, we've seen housing costs be just astronomical, and a lack of even apartments and so forth. So there are ways that people can creatively work out things with other people. Um, so there's an awful lot to consider related to housing, but let's just look at the money part of housing. Let's hit a few hot topics like reverse mortgage. Tell us more about what that is and when you'd use that, and what are the advantages and maybe disadvantages?
Happy to do that, and the TV ads are full of enticements to get older adults to use their home equity in a reverse mortgage. And so, what a reverse mortgage is, it's a special kind of home loan that lets homeowners convert their equity into cash. So that sounds really good, especially if your house is your biggest asset. You think, oh wow, I've spent all this time and effort and money getting equity built up in my house. The way the reverse mortgage works, and the word reverse is very operable here. So, a mortgage, you get money to buy a house, you make payments, and the loan balance goes down. Well, a reverse mortgage is actually backwards of that. You get a loan, and the loan makes payments to you, so the mortgage balance actually goes up. So it's
Whoops.
unlike a traditional home loan, and you don't make payments. The balance on your loan accumulates interest, so the balance goes up. You can have a reverse mortgage that's a lump sum. You can have a reverse mortgage that's like a line of credit. You can have a reverse mortgage that gives you a monthly amount of money, so it can provide income to you on a monthly basis. You have to be at least 62 years old. Your home has to be your principal residence. So if you have a second home, beach house or mountain house or something like that, you can't get a reverse mortgage on that. Um, you have to pay your property taxes, homeowners dues, and things like that. You have to pay those yourself, and then you have to keep your home in good conditions. So you have to make sure that you're taking care of the long-term maintenance on your home.
Does somebody come out and evaluate that once in a while to see if you are maintaining your home properly?
That's up to the lender and would be part of the loan. The loan that you would sign, there would be an appraisal to find out the value of your home, and reverse mortgage, the amount that you can get is based on the value of your home. And obviously the bank is not going to give you 100% of the value, so it's a percentage of the value that you
Mhm.
can get that way.
So they sort of have a security deposit, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but what do people need to watch out for? Because I think I've heard some stories that are really discouraging.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the good things about getting a reverse mortgage is it can be a supplement to your income. Like I
Mhm.
mentioned, you can get a check every month from the equity in your house, from the loan, from the reverse mortgage, and you can also use it to reduce expenses. So if you currently have a mortgage and the payment is, $1,000, $1,500, I mean, just think of what your cash flow would be if you didn't have to shell out that money. So you can use a reverse mortgage to pay off a first mortgage or a second mortgage or whatever. So you can use a reverse mortgage to balance your budget. And there's also a requirement that a certified reverse mortgage counselor that doesn't have anything to do with the loan has to do a counseling session for you before you can get a reverse mortgage. So that person can help you evaluate the pros and cons. Now, what people should watch out for is one of the things we've discovered is the younger people are, the less money they're going to get. The reverse mortgage formula figures you're going to live to at least 100 years old. And so not only do they back off the value of your home, but they also say, okay, so let's say you are gonna you can get 80%, let's say 75% of the value of your home, but and then they take that equity and they say, how can we spread that between the age you are to 100 years old? And leave room for the interest and all the fees and things like that. So the younger you are, the less money that you'll be able to get. But for some people, it's still a thing that makes sense for them to do. A thing to be aware of is the interest and the fees are higher than conventional mortgages. So there's lots of fees involved. And also, if you're away from your home more than 6 months, or if you are permanently away from your home, in other words, if you go into assisted living or something like that, and it's no longer your primary residence, then the unless your house, your reverse mortgage has a co-borrower, say your spouse is on the loan as well. If they are, they can keep living in the home, but if they're not, then there has to be an arrangement to pay off the reverse mortgage or sell the house, because the the borrower, you yourself, are no longer using the home as your permanent residence. There
Wow.
Yeah, and there's also, you have to keep your home in good condition, which is something you mentioned, Gretchen. So good condition, what kind of maintenance is going to be needed in your home? You still have to pay your property taxes.
Mhm.
And one other last disadvantage is if your heirs are very interested in the family home place where you're living, when you pass away, they're going to have to figure out a way to repay the reverse mortgage. And that, I mean, that's not that big of a deal because they can get a conventional mortgage and just buy the house outright, but still it's something to consider.
Wow. I didn't know much about the reverse mortgage. That's really helpful. And I can see why a counseling session would be very valuable. Now, there's
Absolutely.
another thing that we talk about that are really interesting development, like the accessory dwelling units, ADUs. So what are ADUs? How do they work? And just tell us a lot more about those, because I know a couple of people on our board have those.
Yes, they do. A couple of folks on the OnTrack board have accessory dwelling units, ADUs, where their mamas are living, and their moms are still, vibrant, active in the community, but they have their sons right next door. So, um, across the nation, about 1.5 homeowners have put accessory dwelling units in their backyards, and sometimes you might hear them called backyard bungalows, those kinds of things. An accessory dwelling unit, an ADU, is a structure that's on your property, but it's separate from your home. So typically, it's either a custom built home, stick built that you hire somebody to build, or you can get a prefabricated or modular unit that can be set up and delivered on your property. So it's a legal term for a secondary house or apartment that shares your primary home's lot. Um,
Mhm.
and it can't be bought or sold separately from your house. So it's an accessory to your primary residence. Um, Lots of people use it, as I mentioned, or you mentioned, our board members that have their moms living
Yeah.
there. You can do that. You can use it for rental property, and also sometimes when kids come to visit, you know, families will use accessory dwelling units to provide housing away from the main house. So they're increasing in popularity. About 9% a year is the growth rate of
Wow.
ADUs. Yes, I mean it's really picking up. Um, People can finance the construction or the addition of an ADU to their property in different ways. Sometimes people take out a renovation loan, or they refinance their main house if it has enough equity in it, or sometimes people do the financing through the company that provides the ADU to the homeowner. Now, things to think about with an ADU is your property tax bill is probably going to go up, or it's going to go up because you have your home property is of more value because there's an additional structure to it. You got to be really careful about what the local requirements in terms of zoning, in terms of construction, building permits, those kinds of things. Don't just think you can have,
Mhm.
Johnny's ADU bought drop off a unit and put it in your backyard. Make sure that you talk to the planning and zoning people in your municipality and make sure that you're following all the rules, because you sure don't want to make a big investment like that and then have something go south, go the wrong way. Um, Talk to your tax professional about what the implications are for your income tax, not just the property tax, but the income tax as well. So some of the advantages, if you're not, or if you're having one of your older relatives live there, then it can be a great way to have them close by in case they need assistance, but then not exactly living in your house. And it could add value to your property, and you have more space. So if something were to happen, you bring your older parent to live with you, and then they pass away or move into a nursing facility, then that could be rental property for you or a guest suite, that type of thing.
The
Um,
other thing that the two board members have pointed out is the wonderful intergenerational effect. Because, for example, when the kids come home from school, they go over to grandma's house and catch up with her and maybe have a snack or whatever. And it's just a really neat model. It's kind of the tiny house kind of thing. It's I think it's just delightful. But I know some communities are really not up to date on this. They are not in favor, but that's why you got to check out. So how can people learn more about this?
well, AARP has several publications
Yeah.
that actually you, Gretchen, shared with me in preparation for this program. Here's one of them that I think is absolutely wonderful. It's the ABCs of ADUs, a guide to accessory dwelling units and how they expand housing options. So it's a fabulous publication. And then also from AARP, this one is called Accessory Dwelling Units, and it's got all kinds of great information as well. And then when you're thinking about your home and how it will age with you, this is a really good publication as well. It's called Making Room, Housing for a Changing America. So all of those are available for free through the AARP website. So definitely take a look and order those, or you can download the publications, although they're very, very big, just to let you know. And then I mentioned earlier that there's a home checklist for aging in place that AARP puts out there. And so that's just a really important thing to think about, take a look at, because we're all getting older.
Yep. Well, the AARP website is just a gold mine of material, and a lot of things you can order for free, like the 3 booklets that you just showed. And I was just amazed how full of information they are. So, what other tips or ideas do you have that older adults should consider when they're evaluating their housing needs?
Well, I want to encourage everyone, before you reach a crisis point, talk to your family and your friends about your plans and your desires. My mama did a great job. She said, okay, here's what I want to do. And she's now 87 and living in a graduated care retirement community. She's still in independent living, but it was so nice for her to go ahead and say, here's what I'm going to do. And, just want to let y'all know. So have those conversations. You don't want to be incapacitated or unable to communicate and leave your family stranded with trying to make those decisions. Don't ignore the fact that we all age, and that's a blessing to be able to be in this life longer, but we're going to get older, so don't pretend like you're going to be immortal and not have issues to deal with as you age. Get your team involved in the decision making. So talk to your financial planner, talk to your CPA, your insurance agent. Do you want to have long-term care insurance? If you don't, what's going to be the option? What is the potential financial burden for your family? And so get your ducks in a row before something crisis-wise happens. Do your homework from trusted sources. So salespeople, bless their hearts, they want to sell you whatever it is that they are selling, and they probably, a lot of them really do think it's the very best thing in the world. And but you need to step back, take an objective look for your personal situation, and so that's why your team of advisors can be great resources to you. Trusted sources. Look at AARP. Look at stuff that we have at OnTrack. The Council on Aging, super place, and great experts and resources with the Council on Aging. Local area on aging, there's state and local offices and social services, tribal organizations, senior centers, that type of thing. And a very cool thing is the National Institute on Aging has a elder care locator. So I found that out when I was researching for this program today. Yeah, so the elder care locator, and it's eldercare.act.gov. I'm sorry, eldercare.acl.gov. And it can help you find elder care stuff in your area. And so there's just great resources out there. Housing is a big topic, Gretchen, like you and I decided there's all kinds of other things for people to consider. But I've enjoyed talking with you about ADUs and reverse mortgages in particular today.
Yeah, and all the various considerations. And I think, Celeste, what happens, and I hear so often, are people wait way too long to think about this, and they just assume they're going to live in their house. And I would say when you're in your, 50s and 60s, start educating yourself. I always am very concerned when I hear people in their like 87 saying, well, I maybe, and I'm going, okay, they can still make decisions, but it's hard to move when you're older. Get yourself situated or your home modified way before that. Well, I guess the bewitching hour is here, but I'm so glad we got together for our 3rd webinar and to get to talk about housing. It's one of our favorite topics and an important topic because, as you said, it's a big part of our financial well-being.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gretchen. I've enjoyed being with you and with all the folks that have joined us today, and maybe we'll be able to do another show in the future.
Right. Well, stay tuned and keep seeing what AARP, keep checking out that website because, boy, is it a gold mine. Thank you so much, Celeste. We'll see you
Thank
soon.
thank you,
Bye bye.
Gretchen. Bye-bye.